Microsoft presents the first flight model for Flight Simulator 2024. For all those who have already pre-ordered Flight Simulator 2024, the legendary Havilland Canadair CL-415, also known as the Super Scooper, is already available in Flight Sim 2020. The Canadair CL-415 are a series of amphibious aircraft built originally by Canadair and subsequently by Bombardier and de Havilland Canada. Designed specifically for aerial firefighting, it can perform various other roles, such as search and rescue and utility transport. Development began in the early 1990s and went into series production in 2003. The CL-415 has an updated cockpit, aerodynamics enhancements, and changes to the water release system as well, creating a modern firefighting amphibious flying boat for use in detecting and suppressing forest fires. She can scoop up to 6,000 litres of water from a nearby water source, mix it with a chemical foam if desired, and drop it on a fire without having to return to base to refill its tanks. For the test scenery, we use the Renegade ranch in Wyoming. It is available for free in flightsim.to. The link to download is, as always, in the video description. The textures and the model are impressive. The textures are 8K and crystal sharp. Every rivet seems to be 3D modelled, and it also shows many signs of wear. Compared to the other standard Microsoft aircraft, the graphics here are a big improvement. It is only delivered with one livery. However, there are already many free liveries in flightsim.to, and there will certainly be more when Flight Simulator 2024 launches. The interior model is also graphically fantastic. A walk-in cabin with lots of details and high-resolution textures. Graphically, it's fantastic, but now let's look at the functionality. We only receive a little information about the aircraft from Microsoft as there are no documents included. However, we find a few performance tables for the Super Scooper on the internet, which we will test later. For the cold and dark startup, we use the integrated simplified checklist. The Microsoft checklist is very simple. Thanks to the zoom function, you can start the machine with a few switches. Not realistic, but very simple. Turn both battery switches on. Engine ignition selectors on normal. Starter switch on the respective engine. Both fuel boost switches on. Starter on. Condition lever in start position. Really simple. We repeat the process for the left engine. Pay attention to the lighting and you are ready to take off. In our Realism test, we use the original performance data. We take off with flaps at 10 degrees and use our runway of almost 2,900 feet completely, which matches the performance data. We take off gently at just under 90 knots. The CL-415 flies very stably in the flight simulator, but has a slight tendency to swerve to the left, which feels very real. Now let's test the limits. To do this, we set the weather to optimal and use the fuel to a minimum. We reach 170 knots with no problems. The overspeed warning sounds. The speeds from the performance tables seem to match the flight model. The maximum service ceiling is given as 15,000 feet in the official tables and 20,000 feet in the simulator. Let's see how high we can get. After a few minutes, we reach almost 26,000 feet. It doesn't feel real. It's also very difficult to get the engines to stall. Even at 60 knots, they remain stable in the air. Let's now look at how firefighting works and how it is implemented in the flight simulator. The continuous improvements to meet the needs of forest firefighting have made these aircraft the aerial means most in demand over more than 30 years. Although these aircraft are primarily used to fight wildfires in Canada, they are also leased by fire departments in the United States. They are also flown by several operators in countries around the world, such as Croatia, Greece, Spain, and France. The Super Scooper has a water capacity of almost 6,100 litres. It is therefore advisable to start the water intake with a low empty weight and little fuel. The CL-415 scoops at 80 to 90 knots and is on the water for approximately 10 to 12 seconds. The pickup water source should be a minimum of 1 mile long, depending on environmental conditions. The scooping path does not have to be straight, as the aircraft is maneuverable while scooping. First, we set probe's position switch on down. 2 extendable scoops mounted behind the float step of the fuselage pump the water hydrodynamically into the tank, taking advantage of the relative speed of the water compared to the aircraft. We set the aural warning selector to C so that no landing gear warning sound disturbs us during the water landing. We set the water drop control to armed. Water sources shall be a minimum 6 feet deep. The CL-415 will need 3 to 4 feet of draft if a water landing is necessary in the event of an emergency or mechanical problem. The model aircraft feels very realistic. We try to land very gently but still bounce over the waves. After landing, we notice how the tanks slowly fill up. We now increase the thrust and notice how long we stay on the water surface. We only manage to take off at around 100 knots. And indeed, in the weight menu, we can see that the tanks are now full. The Super Scooper now flies very sluggishly. Very well simulated. The button for water release is on the yoke stick. Unfortunately, it cannot be operated as a button, but this will certainly be added in the new flight simulator. How does the Canadair CL-415 behave in multiplayer flight? We tested it on various platforms. One noticeable problem is that it occurs on Xbox and PC. The textures of the livery of the multiplayer model only appear when you get very close. Before that, they are only displayed as a simple yellow paint job. What is also a shame is that the water draining is only shown for your own plane. This animation is not shown for the multiplayer plane. However, since this plane will play a major role in the roleplay for Flight Simulator 2024, I assume that the multiplayer version will be greatly improved by Microsoft in 2024. Although the flight model of the CL-415 does not seem to be finished yet, it gives a fantastic taste of Flight Simulator 2024 and what it can do. It was fun to test it and increases the excitement for the new simulator. What do you think? Have you already flown the Super Scooper? Write it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this little video. We wish you a nice day and always a safe landing.